So thank you so much for having me. So today I'm going to be speaking on the importance of documentation for aligning and partnering. But before I get started, I'll first like to appreciate the Friends of Figma Africa team. I know how difficult it is to pull an event, be it a virtual event or in person. It takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and I know it's not easy. So kudos to every one of you. Okay, so my name is Tejira Gudaroba. I'm a product designer, like Amani said, for Kimoyo Insights. And Kimoyo Insight basically is a market research tool that automates user research across Africa. Like you said, I'm a WTM ambassador as well as co-organizer of the Google Developers Group in Wari. So let's get started with today's talk. So what exactly is product design documentation? And a lot of people, they tend to ask, why exactly is documentation important? And one thing I've come to understand over time is with documentation, you are able to make your processes seamless, and it's able to make you follow through with exactly what you're designing for. So my definition is it's a document that not only converts the problem you want to solve, the context of the problem, and also the final solution into all iteration or stage-based approach. And what this basically means is you having a single source of truth for the solution or the product you're working on. So it's more like you have all of the information you need for that project, more like what exactly the product is expected to do. You have exactly each of the tasks that is expected to be done in terms of the product, as well as you have your deadlines and you have every information that would make it seamless for you, because oftentimes there are a lot of solutions that have so many intricacies. And if you have this documentation, it's basically going to save you a lot of back and forth with your stakeholders, because why? There is a source of truth. You are able to keep track of your projects. So what role basically does documentation play in aligning and partnering with your team members? So the first one is it allows for making your design decisions quickly. So when you have your documentation, because I'm going to walk us through later on a sample project that I worked on, so exactly everyone would see what it looks like. And just to put a quick disclaimer there, it's not more like a standard. Everyone has a way of documenting, but this is what has worked for me. And it has been replicated over several other projects, which has also been effective. So it allows for making design decisions quickly. And how does this basically happen? Because before you get into your design tool or whichever tool you're going to use in designing, you already have a step-by-step process on exactly how the user will interact with the product. So you already know what the process will be right from the onboarding into the product, the first action the user is going to carry out. So with this, you are able to identify technical limitations early on. Because with this document, you get to discuss with your teammates, the stakeholders, and everyone is able to bring in their input, because this basically comes in. I make this document basically after the product manager has shared the product required documents, because that is his own understanding, and I need my own understanding before I get into the product, because I will be the one designing for the product. So this document basically is me writing down my understanding, thereby aligning again with my team members to ensure that we are all in sync when it comes to the solution we're trying to create. The second thing is it saves you time. I can still remember when I first started designing, I had no idea what documentation was. I just jump on my tool, create what I want to create. And when you start having the demo sessions with your stakeholders, they would be like, this is not supposed to be this way. This is not supposed to be this way. And you have to go and write another iteration and come back and share. But this saves you a lot of time, because before you even jump into your tool, there's already a step-by-step approach on what exactly the user journey is going to look like, because why? It's well documented. And I found it to save time a lot ever since I started using it. So the second thing, it reduces pressure, especially while designing complex products. There's always this overwhelming feeling you get when you're designing for a new industry, or maybe you're trying to design for a new experience. You get this overwhelming feeling of like, this is quite complex. Where do I start from? But with this, you're able to document the entire user job stories. And so even before you start designing, you've broken down the entire experience. So everyone on the team is able to understand, okay, this is the understanding and the perspective you see it from. So everyone is able to come in, and with the discussion, you are able to discover new points as well. Maybe there's a place where the experience is breaking, and you're able to have the conversations with your team members that, okay, it's breaking here. How about we try this? And everything goes into the documentation as well too, which is very, very important. So I'm going to be sharing the two types of documentations that help in my design process. And the first one is tax documentation. And the tax documentation, like the name says, is basically all the tasks the user has to conduct while interacting with the product. So for every task the user conducts on the product, every single task is documented. If it's a CTA button, what happens when the user clicks on that CTA button? Every single task is documented. And this basically would help you when you're trying to go with your wireframes. Because usually there are a lot of people that start with high fidelity, but there are some solutions that you just have to start with wireframes, basically to understand the functionalities before you move into the bigger picture of bringing in your visual elements and all of your colors. So with this, you are able to go wide with your explorations. And when you're able to go wide with your explorations, it's easy for you to discover the simplest solution that would be shipped. Because it's one thing for you to design a very good experience, and it's another thing for you to understand the effort it will take for engineers to get it out. Especially when you're trying on a new industry and you're trying to see how users interact with your products. It's very important for you to ship fast, ship early, understand how users are using it so you can quickly iterate. So it's very important. So the second is demo synchronization. So for demo synchronization, what this document basically does is that it is a list of every discussions we have during demo sessions. So for me, with my team, we have weekly demos where we get to discuss the designs that are being made, if it's actually solving for the problems we expect it to solve. So with those demo, every feedback or every problem that is identified, we have, I create a list of what exactly the problem is, which I'll be showing us shortly, what exactly the summary of the entire discussion is, and also the solutions that were spoken about during the call, and the solutions that I will come about later on after the call before the document is shared with the team. So now I'm going to be taking us to one of the documents. So this is a sample tax documentation that I did for a search engine optimization tool I worked on a while back. So basically, it starts first with understanding what the job story of the project was. So because I was what the project was about was helping to research and experiment new keywords. So you start with exactly what the project is going to do for the user. And after you're done with that, you go right about to write also and document what metrics are going to be affected. There are a lot of metrics depending on the project that you're working on or the product you're working on. Some of them are retention, some of them might be adoption. So you have to document that metrics, because when the product eventually launch, those metrics is what will determine if the solution that was created by the team was successful. So it's important to document it. So you also document what the expected results will be for the solution you're trying to design. Then you have your deadline and your plans as well. So this is just basically highlighting what will be done for each week. And it has to do with the process and what will be delivered at the end of that week. And I will put this disclaimer there. There are sometimes that life happens whereby there might be an extra week added and the plan might not go accordingly. But what this does for you is the fact that you and your team members already have like an holistic view of what the solution would be and how long it's going to take, which is very important. So you have all of this documented. everything highlighted with the days for each solution that will be showed. And I tell you the truth, carrying out this documentation, it's not easy. It's really challenging because why? Writing is boring. That's just the truth. It's boring. It's boring, but it's interesting at the same time as well too. So, and it's something you really have to, you really do not have to enjoy it, because I think someone always said, you don't need to enjoy it for you to do it. If it makes the job easier for you, then do it. And why this is also important is, if a new team member should come on board and this document is in front of them, they know exactly what the team is working on. They know exactly the timeline of the project, where the team currently is on the project, and it's easy for them to get into the project as well too. So that's why it's important. But when you don't have this documentation, you then have to have those meetings, which was one of the rules I stated earlier, which is it saves you time. Because then you would have to get on a meeting with that team member and try explaining exactly what is being worked on. Either you get on the call, or you rather just say, okay, I think maybe we're going to forget about this for now. So it's very important. So this is where it really gets interesting, where you start documenting the job stories. So after you've highlighted the main objective of what you expect the solutions that you're creating to be done, you have like clarity. What exactly are the first experiences you want to see when you start designing? What are those things that you want to convert into designs? And also those micro interactions, what are they going to look like? And if you are able to document all of these things, I tell you, when you start exploring your low fidelity profiles or your low fidelity designs, it's easy for you to go wild with your variations, because then you can experiment and explore as much as possible. Because why? You have full context of what the solution is expected to be as well too. So you have all of those documented. And another section that is also on the document is future improvements. There's always this thing of when you're designing or crafting a new solution, you find out that you begin to get new ideas on what is expected. And because you are trying to work on an MVP, which has to ship really fast, you have to document those ideas you are getting. So when there is time, you can experiment. And oftentimes during internal feedback or during internal testing, those ideas you get, you would be amazed to see that even users, while interacting, they point out that, oh, what's the possibility of this happening? So you have those as improvements for your next versions, or improvements for things that are nice to have. But then you've already documented what is needed for the solution to come out. So this is for the task documentation. So for the demo synchronization, so this is what it looks like. For each demo session, this is documented. And so for every problem, or for every section that is highlighted, and so as you can see for this example, it's in the processing state for an empty list. So what exactly was the problem? And this is also very interesting as well. The manager that I worked with that taught me this, basically, it would have you summarize basically on a high level on the call. So that means you have to effectively listen, because it will tell you, it said, once you are able to effectively listen, it's easy for you to engage. And also it's easy for you to be able to craft the right solution. So you're able to come up with a problem, create a summary. Recordings are also done as well too. Recordings are also done as well too. But on the call, you should be able to capture a lot of the information that being passed across. So this is categorized into 3, which is the problem, the summary, as well as the solution. So you do this for every section of the prototype or the design you're sharing, whatever feedback was highlighted. And this, when you go back, it helps you to be able to understand what you would be able to prioritize per time. Sometimes on the call, you get solutions. Sometimes you don't get any solutions. You have to go after the call to explore and experiment, which you would share in the next demo sessions as well too. So this is all of it. you have the summary, you have the solution. And also, like I said earlier, this is not a standard. You can have your own framework as well, but these are just the fundamentals that helps in the process as well. So what are the key benefits of a product design documentation? So what do you benefit when you have this document? So you benefit clear communication because one, you are able to have clear communications with your team members. And also there is consistency as well with your team members. You are able to track decisions and you have an efficient workflow. This is particularly important for me. I can remember there was a time I was designing an experience, and during one of the demo sessions, we made a decision on a design rationale to drop off. And after 2 other demo sessions, when we're having the meeting, it was brought back again. It was easy for me to go back and bring that result on why we didn't move ahead with that. And the team members to remember that, oh, this was the reason we said we're not going to move with it. Okay, so let's keep it dropped off and move on to the next. So these are the benefits you get: clear communication with your team members. Every single person is on the same on sync on what is expected to be done. Everyone is on sync on what the technical limitations as well have. And this makes your entire workflow really efficient. So in conclusion, it's important that when you write down your product requirement documents and you capture every task, it keeps you really aligned with your team members. It helps you to have an holistic view of what the product vision is about. And it also helps you to partner and align with your team efficiently, because then you are able to have discussions with your team members, identify technical limitations on time. You're able to understand what effort it's going to take to design some particular experience as well too. Secondly, when you are able to do this as well, it helps your team to have records that you can use to navigate roadblocks. Because the truth is, for every solution you're designing and every team members, you always experience roadblocks at some point. And with a documentation, you are able to go back, and it's more like a foundation for you to be able to discover what exactly the problem was and how you should go about the problem. So thank you very much. I don't know if anyone has any question as well.
Oh, thank you very much, Tejri. It was really, really, really interesting, and I loved it actually. Thank you for sharing everything and those like steps and best practice. I mean, you shared and examples. We have, I think, some questions on the chat. So, one was from Godness, and she or he said, like, is there like a step-by-step follow on how to document your solution, or is it depending on the solution you are trying to solve?
Okay, so for that, it's all dependent on the solution you're trying to solve for. But what's important is you have documented the objective of the solution you're trying to solve. And once that is documented, it helps you to be able to document as well how you go about that solution, the clarity you have about that solution, how you expect the solution to work as well. Because then it helps you to have like an holistic view about it. So some documentations might not have the entire timeline, just have only the list of the tasks you expect the users to be able to carry out on the product. But with that, it can help you and save you a lot of time to get the work done.
Interesting. I hope that we answered your question. Godness. And now we have Tope with us. He's my my colleague in this journey for hosting our great event. Hello, Tope.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Amani.
Hello. So yeah, go ahead, Tope, and go with the next questions, maybe.
All right. Thank you so much, TJ, for that wonderful session. I'll just take a question here that I have by Alarumba Batunde. All right. He mentioned and said, what tools can a designer use for documentation?
Okay. So for tools for documentation, particularly I use Google Doc for my documentations, but people use Notions. Notion is also available. And the reason why these tools are important is because they're in the cloud and they're easily accessible. That's the good thing about it. And also, there's also ClickUp. A lot of people use ClickUp. It has a documentation section as well that you can use. So you can use Google Doc, you can use Notion. If your team has access to ClickUp as well, you can also use ClickUp as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. There's another question here. The person is asking, is documentation, that's from Clotilda would know, okay, just see if I pronounced that correctly. Is documentation essential for a small personal project?
Okay, so for a small personal project, I would say it's important because most of these best practices, they are habits that you cultivate. And when you move into more complex projects, it's more like it's already second nature. You don't have to think about it. Because the truth is that if you start off not documenting, like I did start off, I started off that way. But the moment I picked up documentation, I just knew it was the way forward because it will save you a lot of time, honestly speaking. It will save you a lot of time and it will help people understand that you are a designer that is paying close attention to details as well.
Wow, that's really profound. Thank you so much for that. All right, a question from Victoria Alta. She's saying, whose role is it to prepare the document? Product manager or the product designer?
Okay, so product manager, like I said initially, my product manager prepares the document, which is the product requirement document, which he prepares. But I myself, I prepare my own document to have full understanding of what I'm working on. Because he has his document, I have my document. And we work in line to ensure that we are on the same page while we're working. But there are teams whereby the product manager creates the entire document. But if you're not in such a team where that is readily available for you, you have to step into that shoe and create it.
All right. Beautiful. I mean, that's really profound. And then the last question, I suppose, is 3 or 4 persons have asked if you could share the template that you shared during your session, or maybe drop the PDF you used if you're interested to do that.
Okay, I would not be able to share this one, but I I wrote an article about tax documentation and I have a template, more like a dummy template there. I can share that. And it's also the same process. It has the same metadata and informations as well. But it doesn't have the full context of the one I just shared, but you can easily walk around with that one as well.